Good morning, classmates. Kami nga po pala yung mag-report na pang-una. Yung topic po namin is thermoregulation po. Ay, wait, mali. Bal, tanga-tanga. Yan. Kasi pwede rin
So,
pang abot tayo hanggang 6 year natin.
good morning guys. Ang topic po namin ngayon ay thermoregulatories. It is a process that allows your body to maintain its core internal temperature. All thermoregulation mechanisms are designed to return your body to homeostasis. This is a state of equilibrium. Our internal body temperature is regulated by part of our brain cells called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus checks our current temperature and compares it with the normal temperature of about 37 degrees Celsius. If our temperature is too low, the hypothalamus makes sure that the body generates and maintains heat. If on other hand, our current body temperature is too high, heat is given off or sweat is produced to cool off the body. Next slide. The average person has a baseline temperature between 98 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37.8 degrees Celsius. Your body has some flexibility with temperature. However, if you get to the extremes of body temperature, it, it can affect our body ability to function. For example, if your body temperature falls to 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius or lower, you have hypothermia. But first, what is hypothermia? Hypothermia is a medical emergency that occurs when your body loses heat faster than it can produce heat, causing a dangerously low body temperature. This condition can potentially lead to cardiac arrest, brain damage, or even death. If your body temperature rises as high as 107.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 42 degrees Celsius, you can suffer brain damage or even death. Next slide po. So let's now tackle about the factors that can raise the internal temperature. First is the exercise. When you exercise, your muscles convert stored energy into heat energy, causing your body to warm up. Second is digestion. Generally, eating leads to a small rise in body temperature as our metabolic rate rises to allow food to digested. I'm sorry. As the chemical responses to the digestive process take place inside your body, our temperature will rise. Illness and infection. In response to an infection, illness, or some other cause, the hypothalamus may reset the body temperature to a higher temperature. So next is the excitement. Adrenaline also increase your body heat by producing vasoconstrictions. The narrowing of blood vessels get more blood to your heart and muscles. So yun, sorry po sa technical difficulties. Sa sa anxiety can cause changes to the heart rate, blood circulation. A faster heart rate makes it easier to flee or fight, while increased blood flow brings fresh oxygen and nutrients to the muscles. When blood vessels narrow, this is called the vasoconstriction, and it can affect the body temperature. Yung increase environmental temperature, given naman na po siguro yung kanyang explanation. So, yun po, next slide na. Let's now talk about the factors that can decrease internal temperature. Drug use, antipyretic is a substance that can reduce fever. Yung antipyretics cause the hypothalamus to override, oh, sorry, um, override a prostaglandin-induced increase in temperature. The body then works to lower the temperature, which results in a reduction in fever. Second is alcohol. Alcohol widens your blood vessels, making more blood flow to your skin. Um, th- that makes you blush and feel warm and toasty, but not for long. The heat from the extra blood passes right out of your body, causing your temperature to drop. Um, Metabolic condition example is under functioning thyroid glands. Body temperature tend to decrease because of deficiency in thyroid hormone. A small rise or fall in thyroid levels can change the body temperature enough to significantly affect the levels of proteins in bloodstream. Sleep at night. During REM sleep, your brain or your hypothalamus stops regulating body temperature. Fasting, triiodothyronine is involved in fasting and also activates the related uncoupling protein that helps regulate the body temperature. So yun po. Next is the depression and exposure to cold. Next slide po. So parang sinabi ko kanina, the hypothalamus is the section of our brain that controls the thermoregulation. When it senses your internal temperature becoming too low or high, it sends signals to your muscles, organs, glands, and nervous system. They respond in variety of ways to help return your temperature to normal. Next slide. Next slide na po. Yeah. How does thermoregulation work? When your internal temperature changes, sensors in your central nervous system or CNS sends messages to your hypothalamus. In response, it sends signals to various organs and systems in your body. This respond with a variety of mechanisms. So, yun. Next slide. Um, how does thermoregulation work? if your body needs to cool down, these mechanisms includes sweating. Your sweat glands release sweat, which cools your skin as it evaporates. This helps to lower your internal temperature. The vasodilation, the blood vessels under your skin get wider. This increases the blood flow to your skin where it is cooler, away from your body in your warm inner body. This lets your body release heat through heat radiation. Next slide. Um, if your body needs to warm up, the mechanisms include vasoconstriction, which means the blood vessels under your skin become narrower. This decreases the blood flow to your skin, creating heat near the warm inner body. Thermogenesis, your body's muscles, organs, and brain produce heat in a variety of ways. For example, muscles can produce heat by shivering. Kaya tayo nanginginig kapag kan tayo, nilalamig tayo, di ba? Parang yung relationship niya. Hormonal thermogenesis. Your thyroid gland releases hormones to increase your metabolism. This increases the energy your body creates and the amount of heat produces. Next slide.
So yan, punta naman tayo sa thermoregulation in animals. Generally, there are two different types of thermoregulators. First one are the endotherms and the second one is the ectotherms. Endothermy is the ability of some creatures to control their body temperatures through internal means such as muscle shiver, muscle shivering or fat burning. They are called endothermic. Endothermy comes from the Greek word endo, meaning inside, which means yung internal temperature ng animal ay hindi nakadepende sa temperature ng surroundings niya. For example, pag yung animal nakatira sa desert or sa medyo mainit na place, kaya nilang i-maintain yung constant temperature ng katawan nila in the means of metabolic heat. Yung mga warm-blooded animals are also in this group because they regulate their body temperature with the help of anatomical and behavioral adaptation. Second one are the ectothermic, which refers to the organisms that control body temperature through external means. They are called ectotherm. The ectotherm comes from the Greek word ekto, which means outer, external, or outside. So that means ectotherms are animals which body temperature changes in response to environmental temperature na unlike sa mga endotherm na hindi nakadepende sa outside temperature sa body temperature ng animals. Compare naman sa endotherm, hindi nila kailangang kumain ng marami para mag-gain ng metabolic heat kasi nagre-rely sila sa outside temperature. And cold-blooded animals is also known as poikilotherm. Cold-blooded animals ay those animals that aren't able to maintain nearly constant body temperature, which means their internal temperature can change according to their environment. For examples are the reptiles, fish, amphibians, insects, etc. So yung snake is an example of an ectothermic poikilotherm because it gets the heat from the environment tsaka they don't have constant body temperature. Another facts about cold-blooded are they gain their energies in the form of heat to regulate body heat. Body temperature varies along with changing environment temperature. They obtain heat through the surroundings environment. They regulate heat by various methods, including bathing in the sun and changing body colors. Cold-blooded animals can make little heat, although they cannot maintain it because their environmental temperature. Some examples ng pag-regulate ng heat ng mga cold-blooded animals or ectothermic toiculate term ay nagbibilad sila sa araw or 'pag sobrang lamig naman ay nagha-hibernate sila or sumisilong sila sa mga puno, gano'n. For warm-blooded animals, they are also known as hemiothermic. They are the animals that are able to maintain nearly constant body temperature. They keep their body temperature at a roughly constant level regardless of the ambient temperature. For example is whales. Sila ay endothermic homeotherm because it makes its own heat and it makes a constant body temperature, like mammals and birds. Another definition is they can produce heat within their body, obtained mainly through consumption of food. Environmental temperature does not greatly affect the body heat. Body temperature is usually between 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. They regulate heat mainly by metabolic processes and adaptive mechanisms such as sweating, panting, and hibernation. They can produce heat within their body by producing metabolic heat through muscle contraction. For example, kapag nilalamig sila, nagshi-shiver yung muscle nila which increases muscle activity and thus boost heat production. On the other hand, may tinatawag din na non-shivering thermogenesis which is nakadepende sa specialized fat tissue known as brown fat para sa heat production. Other animals naman, nag-o-obtain sila ng heat sa pagkain ng mga sa pagkain. And like what I have said earlier, yung temperature nila ay hindi naapektuhan sa surroundings, yung temperature ng surroundings nila. They regulate heat mainly by metabolic process like sweating, panting, for example, is yung panting of dog to increase evaporation from the surfaces of the mouth.
So body temperature is a balance of heat production, gain, and loss. So heat production heat loss equal body temperature. Next slide po. Animals that are covered with fur have limited ability to sweat and need to use heavy panting to increase the evaporation through the tongue, mouth, and lungs. So for instance, many mammals can activate mechanism like sweating and panting to increase evaporative cooling in response to high body temperature. In panting, an animal breathes and swallowly with its mouth open to increase evaporation from the surface of the mouth. Both mammals and birds pant or at least use similar breathing strategy to cool down. In some species, such as dog, evaporative cooling from potting combined with a countercurrent heat exchanger help keep the brain from overheating. Next slide. Animal hibernate to save energy and survive the winter without consuming food. Their body temperature drops from 35 to 2 degrees Celsius. So during hibernation, their body temperature drop from 35 to 2 degrees Celsius and their metabolic rate is reduced by about 98%. So in hibernation is the state of 99% inability of the animal body that function to conserve energy with sufficient food is unavailable during the harsh winter condition. So before going to the winter hibernating period, the animal need to store enough energy as body fat during the normal times of the year. Um, So, yung mga animals na hibernate, they eat a large amount of food and store the energy in the form of fat deposit in their body. Body fats are actually the future reservoir of the energy and they help to maintain the body function. Next slide po. So, in whales and seal really rely instead on their thick blubber fat tissue to insulate their body in cold water. They also have an ability to control heat loss. So, in order to reduce heat loss, whale have three main adaptation. So, first is reducing the body surface area to volume ratio. And the second is using their thick blubber layer as an insulator. And the last one, adaptation, is retaining heat through counter current heat exchange. So it is important for whale to have a low surface area relative to their total volume. Next slide. So, so many animals regulate their body temperature through behavioral thermoregulation such as seeking sun or shade or huddling together for warmth. Next slide. And that's all po. Thank you po.